Well, hello again, everybody. We're going to be going over your persuasive speeches, and we're going to say a little bit about the special occasion speech and kind of update you on where you stand in the class. So let's get started on the persuasive speeches. I've got a lot to go through, and we're going to do both COMM 101 80N and 81N together. So a couple of things you need to know is on the persuasive speech, you had to have the specific number of sources, 4, and you needed at least one visual aid. Some of you fell a little short on that. And also you needed preparation outline and speaking outline, both of which I needed to have before you went into it. Time requirements were pretty well set in there. However, excuse me, some of you went really way over on the time requirement or even under. And then some of the other things that were wrong is some of you didn't have the proper number of audience members for all of this to work. There were some very specific things that were in there. Number one, the source, and you already should know how big I am on the fact that when you say 10 people die each day in traffic accidents in Indiana, you can't just say that. You've got to source it. So either just before or just after you say 10 people die each day in Indiana, you need to say according to the Indiana State Police, according to AAA, something like that. All right. Those are key elements in some of the things where we had some problems, and that's what I want you to be very aware of in terms of some of the things that happened. All right, we're going to start, and I've got to go first and get into where we have the fantasy name, and I'm going to start with Luna. All right, Luna, you have a little bit of the wrong camera shot. You need to back up the facts with sources. Don't say things that are facts and not give a source. The differences in your digestive tracts and the tracts and digestive tracts in rats. When you say that, you need to kind of tell us who and where and all of that kind of thing. What were the differences on the rats and the digestive tracts in humans? You need to let us know about that. I can't read the slide about the, can't read my own writing, the visual, and you kind of had your camera shot messed up in order to show your slides. Overall, this was a pretty good topical speech. I'm not sure how many people are really into that yet, and so maybe you need to do a little more convincing at first about why it even might be a problem, but overall, not too bad. All right, next up is Mosquito. Mosquito, you had a very sing-song delivery method. You want to go for the variety of things. Pitch, pace, tone, volume, silence. Make sure you do that. You had a good shot. You had lied, cheated, and stealded. Be careful on your grammar when you do that. What is your credibility? Establish your credibility when you're giving a speech. Why are you doing this speech? You're reading too much in the speech. And if that isn't good enough, I don't know what is not a thing you use in a persuasive speech. Don't say, and if you don't like my argument, then tough. You can't do that. You've got to still be polite in what you're doing. And what about the why someone should become a Christian? And you need to at least maybe break down world religions so people understand. Overall, not too bad. Next up is Peyton. And Peyton, you need to tighten up on your shot that you have in there. And you have, you say something about 480 deaths. And my response is, says who? Where did you get that? Don't give facts without sourcing it. This was a good, inspiring story. Don't forget your sources. This was a well-done speech. It was a good speech, but you must give sources for your facts and a little bit of a cost explanation. That part in there was very vivid, and your sources were not properly cited. And frankly, there were, I didn't see the visual. So you want to work on that a little bit. All right, next up is Artie. Artie, great style and appearance, good use of vocabulary and visuals. Watch vocalized pauses. Those kinds of things. Your style, think about that for a second, is kind of nice because it's a style where you involve the audience in some of the things you say. This was a very well done speech. You've gotten a lot better with each of your speeches in this class, and it was great eye contact as you went. Ignorance is not bliss, not anymore. That was an excellent way to end your speech on your topic that you were talking about. And it was just a bit long. You nailed this one. And it shows that, nice job with the story about your daughter. It shows how personal involvement can lead to passion in a speech. Next up is Mercy. Mercy, good composition. What was the deal with the Skype audience member? It's supposed to be live in place where you are. Good job on credibility. Perhaps a bit lengthy in some areas. You should. Why should renters care about your speech, and what percent goes from rent? What percent of your renters go from renters to owners? That would have been something that was in there too. Basically, the part about why should renters care? If I'm renting and I'm not planning on getting a house, et cetera, why should I care about your speech? You kind of need to reach out to them and at least say, someday you might want to, and that kind of thing. Next up is Autumn. Cell phones was your topic. Careful about getting lost in your own speech. Make sure you always know where you need to be. You're reading too much of your speech. The leading cause of death of 30 and 40-year-olds. You say it, but where'd you get it? How do you know that? You have no business making that up. Then you said the CDC says, the CDC, that's the Center for Disease Control. Why are they involved in that? So if you give letters and it has a possibility of confusion with some other agency, you got to tell us which one that is. You talked about cell phones spike accidents. Even things like you cited like radios, eating, drinking in the car, putting on makeup, those kinds of things. They probably spiked then too. I remember when we all had CB radios. Where's your information to show how it spiked in the old days when we first had drive-thrus, when we first had CB radios and things? You had very nice citation of Indiana's rules. Next up is Casper, and this was slightly soft focus. Your visual was handled very well. Very interesting topic, quite contemporary. Good, that's a plus. Well presented with very good information. That information that was in many cases not very well known. Good on the prosecution on these matters, and the passion at the end is very well placed. Zeller, the Attorney General, commented that should be Attorney General Zeller. I said the Attorney General Zeller. You said in your speech Zeller commented. You got to tell us who he is and give the respect to the title at least. All right. Government actions, good action steps are recommended in what you said to us on how to deal with this. Great persuasive speech. Next up is Jake. And Jake, you only had 4 audience members. Video was dark and soft. Slow down a little bit. You go too fast sometimes. You talked about texting, driving, and receiving. It's texting, driving, and receiving. Don't get too casual in your speech there. You read too much. This was good information, and it was very well reasoned. Slow down a bit and talk to us. And you need to work to be a little bit more conversational. But this was a good speech. Nothing explains the short number of audience members. Please tell me, you don't have to now, but please make sure you explain that when you're doing it. And was your visual the phone? Be very clear on that so that it's, and also work a little bit to make a visual. PITA, P-I-E-T-A. Lots of nervous habits with your hands. The audio is not very good. Your NAACP quote demanded more detail. Why you were using it? You are tentative in this speech. You were tentative. This speech requires hard conviction. Your words don't question some of your own points. Explain them when you do that. You talked about Jewish pork and gay analogy. It was kind of ludicrous in what you're doing. Why are gay couples needing prenatal care? Think about what you're saying there and work on that a little bit. You only had 4 audience members, not 6. Next up is No Name. No Name, we're this far in the semester, you still don't know who I'm talking about. Good composition, but you are shooting up and in. Edit. You had an edit after you introduced your audience. That makes me highly suspicious that you may have edited in the audience. They weren't really there. It's a great opening. Senator who, from where, what's his name? Tell us. You don't just say a senator. Establish authority. What was the source of the budget cuts? And the number of familiar. Explain that. You owe $1 was out of frame when you held up your dollar. You want to make sure that you hold it up and it's in frame when you hold it up. All right. Next up, finally, is bumpers. Is that right? Yeah, bumpers. All right. What do we have here? This was way too long. You have blower noise in the room that makes it a little hard to hear. You only have 5 in your audience. You're shooting up and in. Stand still when you speak. You're a little better at that than at the first, but still stand still when you speak so that we know what's going on and that we're not going to have any problems at all. I'm fixing my phone now, so we got that fixed. All right. What else? This is too long because of the length was because you were wordy. You were rambling at times. Be very direct. I'm not exactly sure what the point was. I understood it and everything, but it sounded to me more like a lecture than it was a talk to me about something that could be very important in terms of what people would like to know. Your audience would be saying, so what's the point? That's kind of what I was saying. You were 6 minutes in before you cited your first source. This came off as, again, more of a lecture than a persuasion. You need to answer the how. How do I do that? You brought up stuff, and that's nice to bring it up, but how do I do that? If you're talking about a cultural change in me about something I need to do, then you got to tell me how to do it. All right, and watch your vocalized pauses, and where was your visual in this speech. Real quick, I want to go over the special occasion speech. Talk about someone you know. It'll make it much more real. This is a speech you're going to read. It's a manuscript speech, so the only thing you're going to send me is the word-for-word manuscript of the speech. No speaker outline, no preparation outline, word for word in narrative style. So don't send me outline style with Roman numerals and all that other stuff. All right, delivery method, you're going to be doing it from, and know it well enough that you don't have to put your head down and read it all the time. The preparation outline is not required. Visual aid is optional. Sometimes if you are talking about someone, it's nice to see who they are. Sources are not required. Think in terms of a wedding toast. Think in terms of a eulogy. Think in terms of celebrating something or someone. The way I best explain this is think of someone who made a huge difference in your life and talk about them and talk about why they made that difference. All right, real quick, some of you still owe me some things, and you can't pass this course if you owe me stuff, so you want to make sure you get that taken care of. And let me go over that real fast. By the way, some of you are still leaving points on the board, on the discussion board. But in COMM 80N, we have Jake. I have no public speaker critique from you, and I have none from Maudeb. Some of the others who haven't been participating haven't done it either, but make sure I get that. And then remember, you can't pass the course if you haven't done all the speeches, except for the public speaker critique that Jake owes me. Everyone else is in pretty good shape in there. Do all the points you can possibly get. Make sure that happens. All right. Look forward to your special occasion speech. And as always, if you have any questions, call me in the office. Be happy to talk to you. And we'll talk to you next time. You have a good one. Take care.